Hey y'all! So I'm back to let you have it. I am here to tell you what my experience has been with the products that I hauled from Ulta. This is a facet of my self-sponsored review for the month of October. I guess this will still be in October when I post this, but it'll be at the very tail end of the month. And I think that my reviews of these products will probably spill over into the month of November, because while I have some really good overhead swatch footage of these products and detailed information about how it's gone down between me and them for the first roughly 10 days, I would say, I haven't filmed myself applying them to my face. So I would still like to continue on and do like a get ready with me with these products so you can see how they apply. But in today's video, I'm just going to be ranking them as a way of giving my initial review. So in case you missed the first video, the haul video, or decided not to watch it, here's the rundown real quick. For my self-sponsored review in October, I decided to familiarize myself with an array of drugstore products because I just don't have as much of a knowledge of drugstore makeup as I do of high-end, and I want to diversify my knowledge. So I asked my Patreon patrons for their recommendations for the best drugstore makeup and also for their requests for things that they would like to see me review because they're thinking about them or they're curious about them. And based on their wonderful, spirited recommendations, thank you so much to my Patreon patrons for that, I placed this order. I spent $100 and I bought 15 things. And at this point, I've been using them for about 10 days. I think it's only been a little over a week since I posted the haul video, but I had filmed that video a couple of days in advance of posting it. So I've had a good long stint with these products. I've tried all of them multiple times. I have clear opinions at this point, and I was easily able to rank them from the least exciting, the one that at this point after 10 days is the least exciting to me, through to the ones that are the absolute most exciting, the ones that I'm basically just jumping up and down over. So that's what this video is going to be. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Hannah. I love beautiful things, but I'm trying to keep the manifestation of that love in check. I'm trying not to let that love cause me to be an overspender because I also want to protect my financial health. So I talk a lot about keeping a balance on this channel, a balance between loving beautiful things and moderating our behavior. And if that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. So we're gonna do like a countdown from the one that excites me the least to the products that were in this haul that excite me the most and that I'm the most excited that I decided to test. Nothing in this haul has really just been like awful. And that's probably because I was taking recommendations from my patrons, from people who know my tastes and also are very familiar with makeup themselves, and they were saying that these things are tried and true for them. And I will explain to you why the things that are at the bottom are at the bottom. In some cases, it's for specific reasons that have to do with color and that have to do with my tastes, and not necessarily for reasons of like performance or formula, and not necessarily reasons that would apply to you. What I'm trying to say is that I ordered these from the ones that excite me the least to the ones that excite me the most, just based on the sparks joy principle for me. I didn't try to like assess them objectively. I'm just literally telling you which of these things I personally am the least excited to have, and then going through to the ones that I personally am the most excited to have. And that's just gonna be the vehicle for my reviews. Oh my gosh, let's actually start it. Okay, the one at the very bottom is the Revlon Super Lustrous Glass Shine Lipstick. This is a new product, and I got it because some of you requested, there were a couple of you who requested specifically to know about this lipstick. So Kate specifically wanted to know if this was maybe a dupe for Gucci's Goldie Red. And you'll be able to see that they aren't exactly the same color. Goldie Red, the Gucci lip wall that I really, really love, is a bit dirtier. It's got a little bit of ruddy quality to it. In fact, it's closer in color to Velvet Dragon, the Lisa Eldridge lipstick that I recently purchased, than it is to Glaring Red by Revlon. However, the formula of this, the Revlon Super Lustrous, is wonderful. And this is at the very bottom of the pile, not at all because of the formula, but because I am going to give this away to someone who enjoys a more cool toned red rather than keeping it and wearing it myself, because I don't really like cool toned reds. It's just not my tastes when it comes to red. And I do have one or two that lean a little bit more cool toned, like Glossier Driver. And I'll definitely reach for Driver instead of this, because this is like, it's like a bright, solid mid cool tone, like a cherry, like a cool toned cherry red. And I feel like if I ever am gonna dabble in cool toned reds, it's those ones that lean a little bit more burgundy, that are just a little bit more brown, a little bit more grungy. So I'm happy to give this away because it's a great product, and I know that for some people it's going to be the perfect product. If I had a different taste in colors, it might actually be at the very, very top, because the formula is fantastic. The other thing that disgruntled me about this is that I really struggled to get the sticker off, and then I used nail polish remover and it messed up the bullet, so the bullet is marred. I do think that the packaging is incredibly beautiful. It's very impressive, but the sticker issue is an issue. Many of you said in the comments on that video that I should use Goo Gone, which we might have somewhere in the house, but I didn't look for it. I was able to get it all off with micellar water and a little bit of cleansing oil. So, you know, in the future, if I do buy this lipstick, it's funny, it's at the very bottom for me, this color, this one. But of everything that I have been testing from the drugstore, this is one of the products that I feel interested in buying in other colors. That's how much I like the formula. So that should tell you something about everything else, because this is at the very bottom, but I kind of want to try it in coral. They have a glaring coral, and there's also one called Nude Illuminator. I'm interested. I'm following its future career in my life with great interest. I feel like that was a little strained. Moving on. Okay, sort of a disappointment. The fact that this next product is the second to the bottom. It's the one that I'm the second least excited about for me personally of everything that I hauled. And it's something that I think I'm probably, well, I was about to say that I'm going to end up giving it away, but I'm not totally sure about that. It's the Essence Melted Chrome eyeshadows. So the reason that it's disappointing is that if you watched that first video, the haul video, when I was opening these things on camera and swatching them for the first time, you'll remember that I was blown away by these. The color, the pigment, the swatches are beautiful, and you'll see it in the overhead. And you know what these are? I have realized over the past 10 days with them, they're Super Shock shadows. It's the drugstore dupe for the Super Shock shadow. It's literally exactly the same. If you took this out of its pan and you put it on the table, just the substance, which you could do very easily because it does kind of want to jump out because it's like that soft putty, just like a Super Shock. If you took it out and put it, and then you took the innards out of a Super Shock shadow and put it on the table, and you told me to like swatch them and tell you which one was the Super Shock and which one was the Essence Melted Chrome eyeshadow, I would fail the test. Like, they are Super Shock shadows from Essence. That's what these are. And I don't have any Super Shock shadows anymore. I had some for a while, and some of the initial couple that I purchased myself back when I first started trying ColourPop, I used up and or decluttered during my no-buy year. Like they eventually kind of like dried out and weren't usable anymore. And I have leaned away from these. Sorry, I just keep swatching it because it's so, I mean, you can see it gleaming. It's so beautiful. This is the one called Ironic. I decluttered my Super Shock shadows mostly because they had like lived their lives. Like, I'd hit pan on them. I had used them a lot. It's not like I just got them and decluttered them. I'd really used them quite a lot, but then they also like dried out. And then a friend sent me a gift with a couple of Super Shock shadows in it that were more like this color. Like the color Naked, or the color Warm Bronze, reminds me a lot of a couple of Super Shock shadows that I had for a while that I had received as gifts, and that I eventually ended up giving away because I didn't end up wearing them that much, for the same reason that I have not really loved this all that much, which is that you can get a really beautiful one and done look. But because of that putty quality, and because my eyes are so hooded, it tends to gather a little bit. And I don't actually mind the creasing. Like, I've gotten to the point where I kind of love that grunged up, kind of slept in, rock and rolly grungy eye, especially when it's in a color like this, Warm Bronze, and even when it has accents of something bright silver like this. I just love that messy look on the eyes. But I found that with this putty formula, it causes the eye look to look kind of faded throughout the day. So this is a pretty rich bronze color. And when I put it on, it looks really rich and gleamy and beautiful. And one of the things I really love about this bronze is that it's not warm at all. It's a true neutral bronze. It's not warm toned, even though it's called warm bronze. Most bronzes are actually kind of coppery, and this isn't coppery at all. And that's actually kind of hard to find. It's what I'm wearing all over my eyes today. And you can see it is a very kind of like bronzy taupe. But I've had this on my eyes for quite a while, maybe like 4 hours at this point. And you can see that it's kind of faded to like a sort of a soft gray. It doesn't really have the shine. When I first applied it, it had the high shine. That shine was like right on my eyes and really gleaming, really sultry and lovely, almost like a Rowan type dupe. But by this point, it's creasing a little and it's like picking up a little bit and it's just fading and it just looks kind of soft and faded and not bad, but not like what I kind of had bargained for when I read the description of these, when I opened them, when I first swatched them, and when I applied them on my eyes today. This more faded, smudgy look and kind of more subtle look isn't really what I had bargained for. I feel like if I were in a situation where I was like going out to dinner, but I had like left my makeup bag at home and I needed to go to the drugstore and buy a full look just to carry me through one evening, and I wanted to spend as little as possible, but I wanted to get my signature kind of grungy one and done smoky bronze eye, I would buy this. I would 100% buy this and I would do it. I would just be aware that the look that evening wouldn't be as bulletproof as it would be if I did it with my Natasha Denona shadows. And because in my real life I do own other eyeshadows and I own my Natasha Denona shadows and stuff, I don't feel like I maybe need to keep these. The thing is that in the time that I've used them, I've really kind of messed them around. Like they don't make good gifts. This won't make a good gift anymore to anyone because I've really messed them up. I've stuck my finger all in them. I've smashed them and dropped them and pushed them back into the pans and stuff. I'll decide when I do my reckoning, but they are at the very bottom in terms of my excitement. Everything else that I got from the drugstore to test, I feel either a little bit or a lot more excited about than I do about the continued use in my life of these. Okay, the next one up, the third from the bottom, the third rung from the bottom of the ladder. It's also a little bit scandalous because it's also one that I had very high hopes for. The recommendations, this was the most recommended thing on my Patreon. It's the Flower Beauty Blush Balm. I think it's just a color thing. I think it's the bottom because of color. The formula is really, really good. A little bit, so it's at the bottom, it's not the very bottom, but it's near the bottom, a little bit because of formula and a lot because of color. I will say when it comes to the color of this, and I got the color Pinched, it is a very light nude or neutral color. And that is something that I really appreciate. I've talked a lot about looking for a really, really pale color, like a pale neutral or a pale white person nude, like something that would be a nude on me that's very pale in a liquid blush. I've talked about that and I've gotten recommendations for this like hundreds of times, it feels. Whenever I talk about that, people are like, you should try Pinched from Flower Beauty. And indeed, in terms of its lightness, like in terms of how pale it is, it totally did deliver on that count. And I really love the fact I'm wearing it today, but again, I've had it on for like 4 hours and it has faded a bit. I put a pretty intense application of it on today because I really wanted to be able to see, I wanted you to be able to see the color, and you can see the color, but there was more color on my cheeks before. Like it has faded a little since I first applied it, but I have been doing some baby care stuff. So it could be that it like rubbed off on the baby. I don't know. I don't think that it rubbed off on the baby. I think that it just wore, you know what I mean? Like just casual every day. Like this is what happens to makeup. It kind of settles in and it wears a little bit. And in some cases it fades. So it has faded a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is that in terms of the fact that it's a quite light and purportedly nude or rather neutral blush in a liquid form, yes, it's great. It delivers and I love that about it. It's just very peach. It's just really, really peachy. And I'm looking for something that's really neutral, like much more neutral. And I do have swatches of it next to Glossier Dusk and 2 of the M Cosmetics serum blushes, and I'll roll that footage. I have a good swatch of this, and I have a swatch comparison. This is the one in the upper left-hand corner that's the pale, peachy one. You can see it's very pale compared to those other 3 blushes, but Glossier Dusk is so much more brown and so much more genuinely neutral. And what I've been looking for this whole time is a blush that's that genuinely neutral, that brown, but lighter in color. And this one, it's lighter, It's just way more orange. And I just don't love that. I don't love that orange tinge. And so I found myself unexcited to test this, to reach for it. I have another cream blush in this haul and I ended up using it a much more than I used this one simply because of the color. Okay, so those three that are at the bottom are kind of the three duds. And again, I think you can tell from the actual reviews that I'm giving that they're not total duds. I don't think anything here was a total dud. But those are the three that I'm kind of like womp womp about for me. This one is at the bottom of the next group because and this is the NYX Faux Whites Baby Powder Eyeliner. The formula is fantastic. The formula it's so creamy. I love this like creamy jelly. I just love that kind of eyeliner for my waterline, and I love applying this. It goes on so satisfyingly gooey. It stays all day. It's a great product. But it is, because it's so white rather than being like that blue, it doesn't really show up on me as a pop of blue. It shows up as that white waterline, and it's just like a blue tinged white. That white waterline thing, I've seen it work really well on people who are doing like a dramatic eye look where there's a lot on top and a lot on bottom and it's all smoky. And then that white waterline, it provides sort of like this graphic relief from all of the smoke and smudge of the eyeshadow. For me, for some reason, and I think maybe it's because I tend to do maybe more washy, smudgy things, or I've been trying this with more washy, smudgy things, it just ends up not really flattering my eye shape. Like I find when I put this bright white in my waterline, it takes something away from the overall effect. Not the eye look. Like if you were examining the eye look close up just as a work of art, as something graphic and shape and color oriented, it looks good. But then when you step back and you look at me and I look at you, it's like my eyes don't look quite as good as they did before, I feel, when I put a thing like this in there. So I think I'll probably keep this because I don't have that many eyeliners and I don't have any kind of white or creamy white or faux white eyeliners. I might end up finding other uses for it. And again, I love the formula. But there have been a lot of days when I'm like, oh, I should put that NYX thing in my waterline because I'm testing it for YouTube. And then I just don't do it because I'm not very gung-ho about the way that it's going to make my eye look. These next two, these have actually been great. These are the Essence lip pencils that I threw into my cart because I wanted to try some more lip liners and I didn't have any bright red lip liner. I've actually used this bright red lip liner, which is in the color So Lovesick. I've used it a lot because I've been wearing a lot. I've used it a lot because I've been wearing a lot of red lipstick. I've been wearing a lot of red lipstick and I'm wearing the one from Lisa Eldridge. It's obviously not a perfect match. This is a more mid-toned blue, and that's like, you know, a rich, rusty cinnabar orange red, not blue. This is a more mid-toned blue red or mid-toned red, and that's Velvet Dragon. But it works for getting a more precise line or like just getting that initial layer down that I can blur a little bit. And it's nice. It's a little bit waxy, but it's definitely got that pigment. It goes on pretty evenly. And then it's not uber pigmented, like I can kind of sheer it out. So it's almost like I just get that faded, softened red lip line. And then I can fill my lips in with any red lipstick and blend the red lipstick into the faded red lip line that this created. The fact that the colors don't match, you can't really see it when you look at me. It's just like a tool that has helped me to get the lip I was going for. So I've ended up reaching for this a lot. I do really like the formula. I think it's like it's a sort of a softly pigmented, like waxily pigmented pencil. This one, I actually thought I wasn't going to keep. It's called Deeply Intoxicated because when I swatched it, it's like really dark brown. And I was like, oh, I'm not out here wearing lips that vampy. But then when I started using it, it's actually a very red brown and it blurs out to like a color sort of like Charlotte Tilbury Bond Girl, like a soft berry that's very wearable for me. This pencil, as dark as it looks, is actually wearable for me as an all over the lip color. This works as a liner for those soft berry nudes. And so actually when I filmed the overhead footage of these things, at the end I edited out the things that I think I'm probably not going to keep, and I just took some footage of only the ones that I am definitely keeping. And when I did that, I took this out because at that time, it was just a couple of days in, I thought I wasn't going to keep it. And now, after having spent more time with all of these products, I think I probably am going to keep both of these because I have found myself using both of them on a number of occasions just over the past 10 days. And now I feel like we're moving into sort of the middle upper echelon. Like these next products are ones where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like nailed it, like really exciting in a variety of ways. So at the bottom of that next echelon is this Honest Beauty Rose Pink Cream Cheek Blush. And it's just excellent. I mean, it's excellent. It's beautiful. The color is beautiful. The color is the reason I think that it's sort of at the bottom of this next echelon of things, because the packaging, the performance, the way that it goes onto the cheeks, the way that it wears throughout the day, the finish, which is a little bit of a dewy skin-like finish. It feels like it's really tenacious. It's just excellent. The formula is excellent. It's so good. Everything about it is super exciting. And yet I just don't feel like this color of cream cheek is something that I've been waiting my whole life to discover. Maybe at the drugstore though, like maybe a cream cheek product this good is something that I have been waiting my whole life to discover at the drugstore. But I actually think that I might give this away. And you'll see in my final edit in the overhead footage, this is one of the things I pulled out and didn't include in that final group of things that I'm likely to be keeping. Because even though it's above the Essence lip pencils in terms of how excited I am, because it does excite me and I felt excited to use it and reach for it. I prefer a cream cheek that you can dip your brush into as opposed to like a liquid one that comes in a squeeze tube or a dropper. So there are lots of things that have made me feel more excited to reach for this than I have felt to reach for all of the things that we've discussed thus far in the video. Even though all of that's true, I just know that it's redundant for me personally in my blush collection, so I likely won't end up keeping it. But it's good. It's a great drugstore buy, especially if you have been wanting to sort of tiptoe into cream cheeks or cream blushes and you don't want to spend too much money testing it out because you're not sure that you'll get along well with a cream cheek. I feel like this is a really good option. Next up, the Essence Lash Princess mascaras. And I feel like my review of these at this point after 10 days, and this is one where it might evolve a little bit, but I have been using them assiduously. I really like worked to get enough experience with these to be able to report back at this point in this video. In a nutshell, it's like, I was about to say good, but not great, but I actually think that it's more like great, but not off the charts. Like great, but not like to the moon. I feel like this is an unbelievably impressive, buildable, splinky drugstore mascara formula. And I don't feel like I'm going to eschew the testing of higher end mascaras or have no interest in other mascaras ever again because these have completely replaced every mascara that I've ever wanted. I don't quite feel that way about them. I think that they are really buildable if you spend the time, but they're not as buildable as, for example, the one from Gucci. Like that Gucci mascara, it was like the lashes of my dreams. I felt like I had total control and I was able to build and build and build, and I could get a really gunky, splinky look, or I could get a nice, soft, fluffy, lengthened look. These are like the drugstore version of that kind of thing. And I mean that both as a compliment and as a slight knock, in that I'm saying they are like the drugstore version of that kind of thing. Because you can just feel that there's not quite as much of that grip, there's not quite as much control, there's not quite as much fluffiness. Sometimes it can end up looking a little bit sticky, like sticks. But I have loved my lashes every time I've used them. I've just felt like it requires a little bit of finagling. There are so many drugstore mascaras that don't have the goods, like, and high end. I mean, there are a lot of mascaras in the world that you can't build. These have the goods, like you can get them to that point. But I've just found that I end up wanting to stop short of building like a ton of mascara onto my lashes, because once you kind of go over past a certain point of building, it kind of starts to work against itself. Like it just gets a little bit, lashes start getting stuck together a little bit. The Gucci one was infinitely buildable, and that was one of the reasons that I fell in love with it. But I do feel like they are really giving my drugstore favorites a run for their money. LA Girl Volumatic and Milani Highly Rated. I would definitely buy one of these again if I was like I needed a mascara, if I was doing the aforementioned like drugstore sweep of stuff to make an eye look for the evening. I've been talking about them as if they're the same, and one is the false lash effect, that's the green one, and the purple one is sculpted volume. I kind of suspect them of being the same formula and just having a different brush. The purple one, sculpted volume, has a curved brush, and so when you apply it, it sculpts the lashes. It pulls them up and around, it curls them. If you're someone who curls your lashes and you want them to hold that curl, you'll want the purple one. The green one, the false lash effect, has a straight, thin brush with dense bristles, and so it does kind of build and build and build, and it kind of makes the lashes like pyow, pyow, pyow. And I like that. I really like it. But I think I like the purple one better. I've found myself, I'll build some with the green onto my lashes, and then as I go on, I like switch to the purple one to get them to curl up and curve around a little bit. So I think that the purple one's probably the winner, but I haven't really noticed a difference in the buildability of the formula. I think it's just the brush that makes a difference. All right, I think what I'm gonna say is that now we're getting into the upper echelon. Like these last 4 products, it's 5 items, but 4 products. These last 4 rungs on the ladder are very close together. It was really hard for me to decide which one of these is going to be like the tippy top and which one is the 4th one from the top. I decided the 4th one from the top is the Maybelline Lifter Gloss, but I love it. Like I love, love, love it. It's almost like all 4 of these final ones are tied. And I will say that this is the thing that I have worn the most of everything that's here. I must confess, I kind of want more colors. I'm kind of considering getting another color at some point in my future. I mentioned this in a recent video, but I feel compelled to get everyone in my life who would ever wear a lip gloss, I feel compelled to get them all one of these, each one of them. Grammar, why are you eluding me today? I feel compelled to get each lip gloss wearer or potential lip gloss wearer in my life a Maybelline Lifter Gloss for Christmas. It's just so giftable because it's such a juicy, chunky thing. It's a really, really great product. I've been wearing this even on days when I haven't worn makeup, like when I haven't worn any base makeup. I just find myself reaching for it to hydrate my lips because it's got that, it's like a stiff gel. It really is like a gel feeling thing. It's not liquidy. It's not like a slippy, glossy, oily thing. It's like a thick, it's like a whipped gel formula. And there's something about the way that that goes onto the lips that's very, very satisfying. Looks beautiful, very close to the top, sparks a lot of joy. But in the number 3 spot, y'all, stop the presses. I love the Morphe 2 Hint Hint Skin Tint. It's everything that I wanted the Glossier skin tint to be that it wasn't. It's everything that I wanted the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid tinted moisturizer to be that it wasn't. It's everything that I've ever wanted in a light coverage, full face product. And here's why. It's liquidy and it feels nourishing and it goes on in a very liquidy way. You can spread it out with your hands and so it goes on sort of a serum-y skincare way. Then it sets and it does that thing that a good foundation product does, or base of any kind, like a good concealer, even good color corrector. When it sets, it sort of becomes one with itself over your skin. So it sets in a way that's like anti-breakage or anti-creasing or streaking. And that was what I struggled with so much with the ColourPop Pretty Fresh tinted moisturizer. It was like it really was a tinted moisturizer. It was like a lotion. Always at close range, it would streak on me and you could kind of see like peach fuzz interacting with it in a funny way. And you could see like the texture on my skin interacting with it in a funny way. It was almost like it wasn't enough base product for me. Like it wasn't enough pigment for me. It was too much like a lotion. The Glossier one is better when it comes to the dispersion of pigment, but it's very sheer. It's just, it really tints your skin. It doesn't provide coverage and it doesn't really help me to combat redness in any kind of really aggressive or proactive way. And sometimes my redness is aggressive and it needs to be combated in an aggressive way. The Morphe 2 Hint Hint Skin Tint. Coverage is good. You'll see in this swatch, it is light. I mean, it's a light sheer. It's definitely a light coverage thing, but it's good. I've been able to use it to cancel out redness on a lot of days. And it's the color match is good. It's light enough for me, which is like amazing. It's more than I can say for a lot of foundation products. It sets and it just feels, it's not bulletproof like a really intense liquid lipstick or something. But it's not slipping and smudging and streaking around throughout the day. It sets down and it's like good to go. And I find that it looks really skin-like. And then as my skin warms up throughout the day, as I'm active, it becomes kind of dewy and it ends up looking really nice. It's not a super dewy product. I would say it's almost like a semi-matte to skin-like satin. But as it wears throughout the day, it develops kind of a lovely dewiness. What I'd say is that this has become my big guns for complexion. So my preference for complexion is to take good enough care of my skin that I don't need very much coverage, and then just to go in with a little green color corrector for redness, a little bit of liquid concealer under my eyes for a little bit of brightness, and then spot concealing if I have to. That's my preference. But my skin doesn't always behave. It hasn't been behaving lately. And so sometimes I need to pull out the big guns, and I haven't really had a product like a hybrid sort of serum-y foundation product that I love. I haven't really had anything like that until now, and now I have it. So I feel like when my skin's acting up, I'm going to be reaching for this. But probably if I ever get back to a place where I'm waking up with like good, really good looking skin and I don't feel like I need much coverage, probably on days like that, I wouldn't reach for this. I would just use my old standard, my Makeup Forever concealer. All right, top two. Top two, if you've been paying very close attention, then you know what they are just by process of elimination. Second to the top, this Juvia's Place lip liner. And this is in the position it's in because it's got the double header. The formula is amazing and the color is amazing. The formula is good, right? It's really good. It goes on creamy and it's tenacious and it's not drying, but it's definitely stiff enough that you can line your lips. I've also been wearing this all over my lips just as a lipstick, like a lip color. It's so good. It's like that light chocolatey brown of my dreams. I feel like the lip liner, it's kind of just like a really skinny lipstick. That's kind of how I feel about lip liner. The fact that it's skinny makes it so that you can do a lip line with it if you want to combine that with another lipstick. But I use my lip liners as all over lip colors as frequently as I use them just as lip liners, if not more frequently. And I've definitely worn this. I've worn it a couple of times all over my lips just as my lip color. And I've also used it a couple of times to line my lips to prep for similarly brown or similarly like brown nude lip colors. Like I used a little bit of it on my lips today to prep for the lip color that I'm wearing, which is the one that's in the top slot. I could totally see myself panning this because I just think I'm going to be wearing it like a lipstick pretty assiduously. It's a great product. I'm glad that I tried this Juvia's Place lip product. It makes me kind of curious about what else they've got going on with lips over there. And then finally, the top spot, the discovery of the haul, like the main best discovery of this entire thing. Although these top four, I feel like all have been pretty good discoveries. The Maybelline Lifter Gloss, the Morphe Skin Tint, and the Juvia's Place lip liner in that beautiful color, which is called Sweet Nothing. But the best of the best is the Revlon Super Lustrous lipsticks. And you know, as I was applying this one today, which is Mink, that's the one that I'm wearing today, I was reflecting that one of the things that's extraordinary about them that I don't know if I mentioned in the haul video is that they don't have an odor. They're completely odorless. They don't smell like a drugstore lipstick. They're not scented at all. They don't smell like chemicals. They don't smell like anything. And that is really great. Like that, I feel like makes them much more recommendable because there doesn't have to be this caveat like, well, but if you don't like scented things, or if you don't like this smell or that smell, you might not like it. I love that they made these scentless. And these, they have it all. The formula is so good. It is that satin, that skin-like satin that ends up looking a bit matte, but not a flat matte. So if you love a matte lip and you don't want something too slippery, I feel like I can safely still recommend these to you because they're gonna have that slightly lipsticky sheen when they go on because they're a little bit emollient, but you're not gonna end up looking shiny on your lips or having them slide all over the place. They're like the perfect medium, the perfect middle ground on the spectrum of a finish in the world of lipstick. And I love that because I do like a matte look. I mean, I like a glossy look as well, but I feel like I tend to like glossier looks or glosses when they're kind of more sheer and juicy and natural. And when it comes to a color statement, like even though this is pretty neutral, because it's so deep on me, it's like I'm wearing a lip. When it comes to a statement like this, I find that they can be easier to wear when they're a little bit matte. They're like not so slippy and not so satin, because a richly colored lipstick of this kind, when it's also shiny, it can feel a bit aggressive and it can be harder to wear along with other strong statement things on the face for me. So I like a matte, but I have dry lips and I hate it when stuff dries my lips out. And I like the fact that when I apply these, they go on a little bit smooth and satin. They go on a little bit emollient. They have a little bit of sheen to them. They feel nice and nourishing and slippy going on, but then they don't stay so incredibly shiny throughout the entire wear time. And then the colors. The colors are so good. So I have mink and rum raisin and I've been wearing them interchangeably a lot. I've gotten a lot of wear out of them over just the past 10 days. They've looked so good on camera. I just feel like they look good with my clothes. They look good with my other makeup. They're just really, really good colors, really special. I feel like both of these are going to go on to be iconic in my life, right? I'm going to use a lot of mink and a lot of rum raisin in the coming years. So that's super fun. And I feel like I'm going to end up featuring them in like best of videos or drugstore recommendations videos. It's really exciting to have discovered a new tried and true. I've been getting a lot of messages both on Patreon, on the initial thread on Patreon where we were all discussing these drugstore purchases together, and in comments on other videos, a lot of comments from people saying that this is like their favorite lipstick or it's such a good lipstick formula. It really does seem like an unhung not an unhung hero. It really does seem like an unsung hero at the drugstore and one of these secret gems that isn't really getting the hype that it deserves. So I'll show you now the footage of myself removing the products that I think I'm probably not going to end up keeping. This isn't an official reckoning. It's just, I feel like a facet of the review is for me to just show you the smaller haul of the things that I'm like really excited about continuing to use. So you can see that of this $100 haul of 15 things, I am likely to continue to use and continue to really enjoy about 10. So that actually breaks down to about $10 a product. If you're breaking it down across the 15 things and you're looking for the average that I paid for each individual product, spending $100 on these 15 things, it goes down to something like $6.50 per item, right? So initially this haul, when I opened it, when I talked about it, this haul for review, I was like, it averaged out to about $6.50 an item. But now that I've had some time with them and I've gotten a sense of which ones are actually valuable to me, like which ones are actually the ones that I feel like I would have been enthusiastic about buying in some capacity, even if I weren't like on YouTube or if I weren't doing these reviews, when you break it down, it actually, the cost per item goes up, right? Because in figuring out that I would enjoy these 10 things, I purchased 5 extra things that I'm not going to enjoy as much and that I might not even end up keeping. And so the value for money kind of changes, if you see what I'm saying. And personally, with my own beauty budget and my own life, I don't really like that model for deciding what to buy and for figuring out what I like. I like the fewer nicer things model. I like the idea of taking that $100 if it were my own beauty budget and if I were like spending it on myself for myself. But because I'm reviewing and because I was doing this for YouTube, I'm very excited to report that I discovered some things that I think are really, really great. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Again, thank you so much to my Patreon patrons for providing such wonderful, thoughtful recommendations and for having so much fun over there with me on Patreon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this video made you think that there's something else at the drugstore that you think that I would either really love or really love reviewing, let me know what your continued recommendations for drugstore stuff are in the comment section down below. Let me know. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week. This week and next week, so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.